G'day guys and girls, welcome back to Harper's Shed again. Today we're going to have a little bit of a talk about how much I don't know about rotaries. Like I said, we're going to have a bit of a talk today about my lack of knowledge. Now, consider myself a relatively smart person, but like I said, you don't know what you don't know. And as I stated previously, this is my first dabble into the rotary world. Haven't worked on one, and haven't worked on an RX7. Now, what I did do, I stated in the last episode that I was going to pull the engine out and basically tear it down and build it back up again. I've since talked to a few people, and one in particular who's very knowledgeable in rotaries, and he's built quite a few of them over the years. He came and had a look at the car, and we got it firing again with oil down the cylinders down in the ports, and we got it running again. Now the issue it was having is the fuel pressure regulator died on me. That was why you saw at the end of the last video I was having to bottle feed it with brake cleaner out of the container because the regulator died on me. So we amended that, put some oil down it, and we got the thing to run. Now, the engine bay is a bit more complete than when you saw it last. So in order to run it for a long period of time, I put the radiator back in, all the piping, fan, alternator to run the water pump. The belt has to run over the alternator. This engine now has probably a total run time of maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So it still won't start off straight off the key. It still seems like it's low on compression, but talking to people that are more knowledgeable than I am and also doing a fair bit of research online, that's not entirely unusual. Depending on what forum you want to read, and I'm not a big fan of forums in general for some information, but if you sift through the bullshit, sometimes you'll come across the right stuff. But they can take a few hundred kilometers of full proper driving, so under load conditions, in order for them to reach full compression. My fingers are crossed that that's what's going on here. So this engine was rebuilt, as I said. It's got new side seals, apex seals, oil control rings, and new O-rings throughout. But the rotors are reused, and the housings are reused, all of them. So the irons and the rotor housings and the rotors, they're all used items. In good condition, apparently, but they were used. So what I've been told, and what my information gathering has led me to come to, is that it just needs more time to bed in before it builds full compression. The other kicker is too, I can tune most cars. It's not really that foreign to me. However, tuning a rotary is a little bit unknown. I'm not overly familiar with the advanced curves and the splits on the different coils, and the parameters of the MT8 are not what I'm used to tuning. So I'm used to laptop tuning and also carburetor tuning as well. But the hand controller itself is a little bit clunky. So it's taken me a while to get through that. So the other kicker is that I don't think the tune's fantastic for fire up off the key, and also the engine's low on compression. So what I'm going to do here is I'll set you up, I'll oil it, and I'll get it to fire up. And I want to do a little bit more tuning anyway, so I'll get it to fire up, and you can see what's going on. But essentially, I'm going to leave it in there for now. I think I was a bit quick on the trigger before, so that's where I'm at. I'm going to leave it in there. I'm going to get the car to a point where I can physically take it around the block. I mean, we did the interior, so it's seats are bolted down and steering wheel's bolted on in bits and pieces, so I can physically drive it around the block. Do need to install a tail shaft because it's not going to go far with that. And then we'll make a decision after that. So after I've actually put the engine under load to bed things. So yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm sure people who know what they're looking at were probably saying at the end of the last video, "You're an idiot, don't rip it out, just keep persevering," or well, you may not have been, but here I am. So I'll set you up, I'll oil it up, and we'll fire it up and let it run again. So we'll just let it go for as long as I can. So, all right, let's make some smoke. It's very smoky when the oil burns off. All right, let's go. You're not going to be able to hear it very well. It's very loud in here. But she's fired up on oil. What? 1500 RPM. That's about as low as I can get the idle. I'm pretty sure I've still got a decent vacuum leak. Come around the back. Sounds good. That buzz is still going, still annoying. Anyway, I'm going to let that run for a little bit. I'll try and do a little bit of tuning. I'd really like to get that idle down, but we'll see what we can do. So I'll bring you back. Alright, so I had it running for, I don't know, probably another 20-25 minutes. Mucked around with the computer a bit more. Yeah. I'm going to really have to read the manual quite a few times, but I'm getting the hang of it. So I did get it to idle at about 1500. Seems pig rich, but the AFR on the, so it's only a narrow band, but the AFR is telling me it's at 14.7, which is the lowest a narrow band goes. So I don't know. If I try and pull any more fuel out, then it stalls. Obviously I put some back in and it's pretty happy. It'll sit there and just sort of keep itself ticking over at about, yeah, I think it was about 1500, 1600. So, but I did manage to get it up and running again once. So let's see how we go. So this is, I've just basically just shut it down. No oil down anything. I want to see if it'll run hot off the bat. Alright, it is the next day. I am going to give a crack and see if this thing will fire back up again. It is absolutely dead cold. See if any of the tuning work that I did yesterday has an effect and see if it's building any more compression. So, everybody cross your fingers and toes. Sort of. Try and put a little bit more throttle on the blades, just a little bit. Wonder what that's about. Let me do do a little bit more tuning and we'll come back to it. Righto guys and girls, we're back again. New day, new set of challenges. Now, as you saw, might have been in the previous video, starting to lose track. I really couldn't get the idle down under about 1500, and I went through and I checked all the vacuum ports on the manifolds and they were all plugged properly, and then I'd come to the conclusion that there must be a vacuum leak in behind the manifold, between the manifold and the engine. So I come out and started ripping into that and show you where we're up to. So intake manifolds off. Everything sort of looks okay except for the fact that there was a water leak coming out of these, and it made it all manky, which was another reason why I knew I had to pull the manifold anyway. So that's off, and it was a bit of a shit. I had to pull I don't know if it's normally do, but I found that I had to pull the actual exhaust manifold away from the engine, undo the 4 nuts on that and pull it back. I tried to get just the turbo housing off, just the turbo off. One nut just couldn't get to. It was fighting me, so I just pulled the whole manifold. And let me show you what I found. So there's your vacuum leak. No gasket. Don't know if perhaps the previous owners didn't have one available or not, but use silicone to put the manifold on, and the vacuum leak is right here, this whole area here. So the sealant isn't pushed down, it's not compressed at all. I mean, you can sort of see up here where it's been pushed through, even it's pretty light on here, but yeah, this whole section just hasn't even been compressed. So there's the vacuum leak, and there's the water leak. So water pressure in behind there, and it was swelling up through here, and that one there's done the same thing. Yeah, so you can see where it just hasn't compressed the gasket, the gasket goo, whatever exactly it is, RTV or a mani seal or whatever the product was. Has given me a really nice outline to come through and port for the 6-port housing though, so I might do that before I put it back together, but we got some cleanup to do. I'm going to have to order an intake manifold gasket. I might try and get both halves too, because there is one for this, but I've had it on and off that many times that it won't hurt to get another one, so we'll do that. I'll get some gaskets ordered, get that ported out, and we'll get happening a bit more. Hopefully when I get it back on, I can actually get the thing to idle down and sit and run happy, and then we can start pushing a bit further forward to get this thing rolling and driving, not rolling. A couple other things I've got to run with is tail shaft has to go back in. While I was under there, I did notice that there was a lot of loose bolts and bits and pieces. The engine mount nuts weren't done up properly. Gearbox nuts weren't done up properly, that sort of thing. Nothing crazy, but certainly needs to be addressed before I try and take it around the block. Something else I found too, which was a bit, I don't know if it's just something I'm going to have to lead up or not, but if we come in here, no brakes, nothing, straight to the floor. So something else we're going to have to fix. Oh, it's hard with this being up on the angle. Something else we're going to have to fix before we take it around the block. Yeah, a little bit too dangerous trying to drive this thing without brakes. I'm in a residential area and I really don't want to put it through someone's front window. Alright, get some more stuff happening and we'll check back once it's a bit more back together. Can you spot the difference? Not fantastic. Doesn't really need to be. I just tried to reduce the turn radius in there, try and get it somewhere near the actual shape of the port for the 6-port housing. All I did was just use the squished out gasket area as a bit of a guide, or goo area as a bit of a guide, and that's going to be close enough for what I'm doing. Yeah, all I'm using is just a standard die grinder, nothing special, carbide burr. That's actually a steel designed for, you know, ferrous material. So they do tend to clog up a little bit, which is why, as you saw, I was using the WD. Works alright as a little lubricant. Tends to help it from loading up too bad. Ideally, the proper lubricant for aluminium is actually kerosene, but don't have any on me, so WD works. Alright, I'm going to copy that over to there, clean the whole face up of all the goo, and then check it for straightness and see, flatness rather, and see how far off it is. I want to know if the reason why this goo didn't compress is whether it's because the whole surface is warped, or possibly there's something out of alignment with the way the housings have been put together. I certainly hope not. I just hope this is warped, or it wasn't done up before the goo set, or something or other. Anyway, I'm going to get that finished, and I'll bring you back when it's done. Alright, after a bit of work, cleaning up, discovered a few things. This has previously been welded. Looking at other videos, I could always see holes in and around these areas. They were just depressions in the casting, and I couldn't see these welded sections. You see the outline of it there. I couldn't see them through the gasket goo, and it wasn't until I started scraping them off I went, well, okay, alright, so they've been welded. Now, for those of you playing along at home, whenever you weld a manifold flange face, especially aluminium, unless you clamp it down really well and allow it to normalise slowly, and even then, they'll warp. And there's really nothing you can do about it except that when you're done, chuck it up in the machine and skim it flat. Don't use a belt sander or anything like that. They'll give you false indications. You run that on a belt sander, it won't be flat. That's just the way it is. So, sort of two things going on here. You put the engineer straight edge on it, and it is a proper engineer straight edge. I've got a 6th hour feeler gauge, and it slides under there. No worries at all. 7th hour sort of gets a bit stuck. Now it also slides under there, sort of. But I think we're being a little bit tricked, because if you have a look, if you watch the straight edge, it's actually rocking. Now it's rocking on this welded portion, so when this was ground down or filed down, I can't really tell what they've done to try and bring the level back. They haven't brought it back far enough. So it's actually, when it was bolted up to the car, it's sitting high on this point. This point is high. The rest of the manifold is actually not sort of too bad. I mean, yeah, that's a 6 hour feeler gauge. It's pretty big, but you know, I can't see any real light coming through the rest of the manifold. I think the vast majority of the problems is this welded section here is sitting high. The other side doesn't really appear to be too bad. So if we take it off this welded section and try and get the feeler gauge, again, it's a 6th hour. But the rest of the manifold actually isn't terrible. It does drop away on this corner. Even when you keep it off the welded section, it does still drop away. But if we try and come over here, so we're not on any welded sections, it's really not too bad. And a gasket would take that up, no worries. But what I'm going to do, for the sake of argument, I'm going to set this up in the mill and take some skims over it, get it all nice and flat and true, and then I won't have any issues at all. So, and that with a new gasket. Should be sweet. Hunky-dory, ready to go. No vacuum leaks, no water leaks, and yeah, hopefully make the right sort of noises. I did finish off this side. So again, they're not perfect, but they certainly open the rest of the housing up where it should be. And just a little sort of side note for anyone playing along at home, this manifold is not going to be the final one on the car. So I got some plans in mind, and they don't really involve this manifold in the long run. So I just want to get it on there, get it better than what it was, and get the car up and running properly. And then later on down the track, I'll show you what I got in mind. But yeah, it doesn't involve this manifold. So let's get it up in the mill and put the face cutter on and get it happening. So yeah, as you can see, we've removed material off there, just started to touch around here, and then there is absolutely nothing catching here or down here. Unfortunately, my cutter's not big enough to do it in one pass, but the machine's set up pretty well, so we'll just step our way across. It's not ideal, but then I've got a nice big flat block that I'll put some emery on, and I'll take all the ridges off with that. But yeah, so it's not too bad all the way across. And then this side does drop away a little bit as well, but it really wasn't as bad. So anyway, that's only about a 1/4 hour cut at the moment. So just wanted to skim it and see where it was. We'll keep going and get it all flat. There we are, end of operation. So took it all down. It took about, I would say, probably 10th hour to get the whole thing completely flat. So my cutter's, what are we? I think it's a 68. It could be a 70mm multi-tip face cutter. So I didn't quite get the full thing, but 2 passes was alright. And the machine's set up pretty good. So for the final, sort of just the very final finish off, what I used is, this is a magnetic chuck. Very good magnetic chuck as well, but it is perfectly flat, pretty bloody heavy. It'll be sort of every bit of 15 kilos. We wrap some emery around it and then just magnetic on some steel strips on the back to hold it tight. It's really good just for a final wipe, just to get any leftover machining marks out. And as you can see, it does a pretty bloody good job. There are a few very tiny little tooling marks left in there, but yeah, you saw what it was like to start with. So yeah, so they're probably the worst of the tooling marks there, just ever so slight running off the back of the cutter, but gasket on that, it's perfect. I did go over it with the straight edge, and there is absolutely no gap. It's perfect, and it's like that crossways, lengthways, any way you want to put it. The smallest feeler gauge I got is 2.5 there, and it won't go under it, which is to be expected. The thing's machined flat now, so should seal, hopefully. They'll get rid of the vacuum leak, and hopefully I can get the thing to idle properly. So anyway, get it off the machine, get it washed up, and we'll get it reassembled. Alright, everything's reinstalled. Newly faced intake manifolds back on. Everything's all hooked back up. We've still got janky wiring. Everything else is still questionable. I do have the throttle cable hooked up to inside now, so I can control it from the pedal, so that's a bonus. I'm going to hit the key and see what happens. I'll check the fuel leaks first. I'll just probe the pump and build system pressure, make sure there's no leakage, and then we'll turn the key. Hopefully it runs better. Find out. We've got fuel pressure. Can't hear or see, smell anything, so that's good. Water temp, 124 degrees. I don't think it is. There we go. Cool. Dicky water temp sensor. Righto. See what she does. answer is nothing. Huh. Okay. Let me recheck some things and I'll get back to you. I would have thought that would have at least coughed. Alright, stay with me. Alright, so I ended up pulling the plugs, cleaning them up. They were really oily and dirty and shitty, so clean them up, put them back in. We'll see. Turn the key, see what happens. We do have power at the coils, and I did have spark before, so we'll see what happens. Not a lot. Alright. Alright, I still don't think we have spark. Run around, see if I've got another set of plugs. Might test the plugs first before I go ruling them out. Alright, bring it back. You tell me if you can see spark. I can't do both at once, so. Actually, before I do, I'm going to unplug the fuel pump relay. I don't need to be flooding the crap out of it. Try again. You see anything? Alright, so the plot thickens. Spare crank angle sensor. It is plugged in properly, but when I spin it, either way, I've got no RPM or ignition trigger, and obviously I've got no spark, so I need to trace down some wires, I think. Maybe my janky wire is just not cutting it. Anyway, let's see what I've done. I've done something somewhere in the whole process of that. I must have jagged something. Alright, bring you back once I figure it out. Alright, wouldn't you know it? I don't really understand why. One of my grounds was shitty, so spark for days. We're good now. I've got a taco signal. If anybody knows what that buzzer is that goes off, can you let me know? Put a comment in, because it is just pissing me off. Anyway, I haven't figured out what it is. Let me know. Alright, let's throw some plugs back in. See if we can't get it to make some noise. Alright, let's throw this dance again. Wouldn't surprise me if I get a good backfire, because there's probably a fair bit of fuel cranking it, so. Anyway, see how we go. Okay, I'll spark again for some reason. This is testing me. Let's plug back in. These connections dicky. That was about all I did with it last time. They're still plugged in. Leads are back on. I don't know. Fix it. Just magically fix it. One plug. I've got an RPM signal. Oh, shush, buzzer. Right, let's try a little bit of go juice. Alright. That's a little bit more promising. It's still saying 0. Try like that. A little bit more throttle. Anything? Yep, 2%, 2% right. A little bit of spray, and I might try and get the throttle from in the car. Sounding a bit happier. I genuinely take my hat off to these starter motors. This thing has copped a whooping. Try again. I'm going to put a battery charger on, give it a bit, and see what happens. My cranking voltage is getting down to about 10.5 volts, so we might put a charger on, top that battery up, and we'll bring you back when we've got a bit more action. Alright, we're going to leave it there. So I was saying how good Mazda starter motors are. They are, but apparently I'm better. I killed it. So starter motor's dead. No real surprise there, to be honest. It was close. It wanted to fire and run. I don't really know what's going on at the moment, so I think I have to order a new starter, put it in, and see how we go from there. So it's closer to driving. I did get the tail shaft in, brakes bled, and well, the rest of it's not too far off, provided it makes noise. So hopefully next episode I'll have a starter motor, get that in, get it spinning over better, and I can get the thing to fire up and run again. And then I should be able to drive it out of the shed. So, anyway, fingers crossed. Hopefully starter motors aren't too expensive. And I'll catch you in the next one.